just saw a movie again. I haven't seen it for a long time, and the movie was called Zeitgeist. And if you listen to the intro of Zeitgeist, which was supposedly like a grassroots movement to spread truth, but many people disproved that because, for example, because of how much money they made with that movie and how big of a hit that thing was instantly. So Zeitgeist, if you listen to the documentary Zeitgeist from 2007, that was shortly after 9/11, you hear George Carlin making fun of God and Jesus and so on and so forth. But a whole part of Zeitgeist is just trying to explain away Christianity through the ancient mystery school teachings, and they very, very craftily do that. And if you never saw Zeitgeist, it's a great documentary, but it's dangerous disinformation. And this was released 2007.
We understand where we came from, what we think we're doing. The more you begin to see, we've been lied to. We've been lied to by every institution.
This is Jordan Maxwell speaking.
For 1 minute that the religious institution is the only one that's
Jordan Maxwell
touched.
was basically the David Icke Alex Jones long before Alex Jones existed.
The religious institutions in this world are put there by the same people who gave
Jordan Maxwell also wrote a book called The Matrix.
International banking cartels, because our masters don't give a damn about you or your family. All they care about is what they have always cared about, and that's controlling the whole damn world.
So
we have been misled away from the true and divine presence in the universe that men have called God. I don't know what God is, but I know what he isn't. And unless and until you are prepared to look at the whole truth, and wherever it may go, whoever it may lead to, if you want to look the other way, or if you want to play favorites, then somewhere along the line you're going to find out you're messing with divine justice. The more you educate yourself, the more you understand where things come from, the more obvious things become, and you begin to see lies everywhere.
So now Jordan Maxwell, I think a third, the movie is about 2 hours long, and I think a third of that stuff is just explaining astrotheology. And astrotheology makes a connection between the stars and deities, but that's not because, for example, astrotheology, there's a great lecture from Mark Passio about astrotheology. It's unbelievably interesting. So Jesus Christ was prophesied he would rise 3 days and then he would sink again, and he is the Son of God, and so. And Zeitgeist tries to use astrotheology to disprove Christianity. And it's very, very intelligently done. You have to be aware of that this is a deception, this is not truthful. there is a thing called astrotheology where they say that the stars have a correlation to spiritual things that happen. So stargazing, for example, was the way that the three wise men from the east found the child Jesus, to bring him gold and frankincense and myrrh. So in Zeitgeist, all they're doing for like 1.5 hours is try to use the planets as allegories for Jesus. So Jesus never existed. That's what Zeitgeist is trying to do here. Jesus never existed. Jesus is just the same as Mithras, which the Mithras cult, which was also a sun worship cult, and Krishna and Christ. These are all the same things. These are certain planets, like for example the sun, and so on and so forth. And this is very intelligently done, but it's the opposite that's true. The sun, the stars have always been spiritual roadmaps. So the three wise men who found Jesus followed a star to Jerusalem to find Jesus. So the stars have always been inspirations and roadmaps, and they are doing this very, very cleverly in Zeitgeist. If you watch the thing, you are convinced, you are absolutely convinced, like this was a master of the occult who made this thing. It's just, and then you hear George Carlin, which was a famous comedian, making fun of religion and so on. But in reality, I have looked through all the world's religions. There's only one religion that can forgive your sins, and that's Jesus Christ. No other religion can do that. Even if you are the Buddha, so and also from an intellectual standpoint, the only thing that makes any sense is the Bible. Because you can use mantras and you can use meditation and yoga to improve your life. But if you have a massive spiritual sin hovering over you, that which will in the end destroy you is your own conscience. Your own divinity within will accuse you, and that's also why they are making these people, like these theosophists. I also saw an interview with Jordan Maxwell where he praises Helena Blavatsky and so on. And he's very excited to tell the whole world that yes, I am familiar with all the works of Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. And so these people are very much into this occult stuff, and they can twist these things that if you watch the movie Zeitgeist and you have no knowledge of the Bible, or any other religion for that matter, or what they believe, and that's Luciferianism. And that's not something that I invented. You can look it up on Wikipedia. They believe, for example, Blavatsky had a contemporary writer, Alice Ann Bailey, who wrote a book called The Externalization of the Hierarchy, where they go on about Shambhala and the lightless light all day long in their books, and it's just like crazy. I tried to read Blavatsky, but it's like, that's insane. That's so insane what's in this book, The Secret Doctrine. I tried to read it, I really tried, but it's like, that's like the Lord of the Rings on steroids. So, and these people believe in that, and they believe that the evil god Adonai has Jordan Maxwell too, I think he's an occultist. Also Alex Jones, David Icke, all these people that you see on the internet talking about this, they are all in on that stuff. And David Icke also talks about Kundalini awakening, that this all came to him when he had a Kundalini awakening, when he was somewhere at some pyramid. It was in South America. He was standing at this Aztec pyramid, and there he had like this Kundalini awakening, and then he went on television and told the whole world that he was Jesus. So yeah, but he's a likable guy. I like him. Alex Jones, I don't like him. This guy is like, I mean, insane. So and all these people, Joe Rogan, they all have these logos with the eye and the pyramid, and if you don't get this, that these people are in on that, they are constantly telling you in their logos who they are, and they are Luciferians. They literally believe this way. That's what they believe. They believe that Adam and Eve were held prisoner in the Garden of Eden by an unjust, cruel, and vindictive God. And Satan, through his agent Lucifer, freed humanity through the gift of intellect. That's what they believe. Literally, that's what they believe. And I mean, even these high level skull and bones presidents, that's what they believe. That's why they constantly do this, and they have like this strange smile. Like, yeah, we all think that means rock and roll. So yeah, that's how insane this world really is. And if you see that, you can never unsee it. You can never unsee that stuff. And if you think about what this guy, George Bush Jr., that this guy was the president of the United States, is like surreal. That's what it is. It's surreal. It's absurd. But this guy can't formulate a sentence, let alone. I mean, there's a whole dictionary of Bushisms, of things that he constantly said wrong, like fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, you know, can't get fooled again then. Something like that. And this guy was the most powerful person in the world. Unbelievable. So Zeitgeist was a very crafty propaganda piece, and you really have to listen to it and watch that thing. And I can't go into all the details, but they basically, what they are doing is they're using astrotheology to disprove all religions, because they say something to the extent that all religions are just an expression of the planetary movements. And to some degree that might even be real, truthful, but it does not disprove Jesus Christ, and it does not disprove Christianity. It's like another level of interpretation, like the world of symbols, which also has a real effect on consciousness. So, which in the Kabbalah is called Atzilut, as far as I know. And yeah, so it's all propaganda. And people have seen this, and like subconsciously you still have like George Carlin in your head laughing about Jesus. But in reality, this book makes so much more sense than anything, any other religion in the world. I mean, yeah, it's really painful to watch that Zeitgeist, because it was shortly after 9/11 when I watched it the first time, and it could even be that that they had something to do with Lucis Trust, which is the publishing company formerly known as Lucifer Trust, from Alice Ann Bailey. And it could be that this was made by them, because it's very esoteric knowledge and very interesting, but it's a complete twisting of the reality. And if you listen to it and you don't, and another thing that I heard today, which that really blew me away. I heard this saying once, or several times. It's in Hebrews chapter 2 or something, and it says that if you're born again and you willfully sin, you keep sinning, then there will not be left any sacrifice for you. And that has often been used to terrify people, to make them stop sinning. But it's also completely out of context. and it's not what it means. But I also believe that for a very long time, that if I once again sin, and of course you can't stop sinning within 24 hours if you have done it for the last 20 years. But I really believe that if I can't stop sinning, then there is no way, because the Bible says it's somewhere. I just heard it in a sermon somewhere. If you don't stop sinning after you have been saved, then there will no sacrifice suffice to free you of your sin ever again. And that's either it's misrepresented or it's taken out of context. So in reality, what happens is that there is a process of sanctification, and you yourself don't have the power to overcome spiritual darkness. So this is a process which is called sanctification, and there is a lot of these myths and it's like you're doing the work of the devil for him, because you're like, this passage scares people so much that they then don't want to believe in God anymore. And that's in reality where the light is coming from, and which gradually, slowly brings you into sets your feet upon a rock and establishes your goings. And that takes time, and that's also one of the first things that he told me, that you have to have patience. And the funny thing is, Derek Prince heard the same thing from Jesus. You have to have patience. God is not a waitress. And Derek Prince heard the same thing when he was very ill once, which really struck a chord because of the words that he used. That absolutely reminded me of exactly what he said. That was really eerie. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about these things. These Masons and Shriners and occultists and so on and so forth, also Scientologists, they all have their crazy beliefs, and that's all nice and fine and good and so on. But the only thing that really makes any sense, even on an intellectual level, makes any sense, is the Bible. It's not Hinduism. I don't know anything about Islam because it doesn't interest me. Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard was a Crowleyite, and so these people were all literally involved with this maniac, and I saw one evangelism encounter with a young guy who was into Crowley, and this guy talks with him, and it's like he was a student, a university student, and his name was Abel, like Cain and Abel, and that was an evangelism thing, and he talked with him, if he knows the gospel, and he asked him if he can point the camera to the north because he's an occultist, and then he and literally it's about this stuff, cardinal directions and so on. So this guy says this was the creepiest evangelism encounter that he's ever had, and he has done this for a long time, longer than I'm alive. Ray Comfort, that's the guy that from New Zealand who was made fun of by many atheists, and they called him the Banana Man. And because of them making fun of him, that opened huge doors for him into the atheist community, and he was able to ask them questions. And it's very interesting because they don't have any answers. Theoretical physicists and so on, like Lawrence Krauss, and so these people, they can't answer his questions. He's just a Christian. So usually the first thing that he asks is, "Are you a scientist? Are you an atheist?" And he says yes. And then he asks, "Are you a scientist?" He says yes, I'm a theoretical physicist. And then the third question is, so do you believe that nothing created everything? That's against the second law of thermodynamics. Nothing cannot explode to create something. That's unscientific. That's the most unscientific thing you can say. So they were, after some time, they were all, he interviewed many of these very famous people like Richard Dawkins, and I think Richard Dawkins really made fun of him, and he didn't like that very much. And Ray Comfort is his name, literally his name is Comfort, Ray Comfort, and he just goes around and talks about the gospel, and he has a website called Living Waters, and he talked with these physicists, and they literally have no answers for his questions. So you believe in the Big Bang, so you believe that an explosion created less entropy. That's not possible. That's unscientific. An explosion can only lead to more entropy, which is Unordnung, and not to less entropy. So there must have been a creative force, and it's very easy. If you see a building, you know there must have been a builder, and if you see a painting, you know there must have been a painter. And if you see, you get the point. So literally these people don't have answers for him. And these are people like Richard Dawkins, Lawrence Krauss, a very famous physicist. P.C. Myers is also a very famous physicist. And these are like the high priests of science, especially Richard Dawkins, and he then declined to debate him because he saw the danger in that. And Lawrence Krauss said yes, he would do it, but only if he just would ask him maximum 4 questions. So it's really unbelievable that all these things, like the Bible says, in the end, the people who proclaim to be wise will look like fools. And the first will be the last, and the last will be the first, and so on. And literally, this guy with his Bible makes people speechless, like Richard Dawkins. who wrote the book The God Delusion, and he made a lot of fun of him, Ray Comfort, I mean, and yeah, unbelievable. So anyway, what I wanted to say is that there is so much disinformation and misinformation, especially people like Joe Rogan, Alex Jones, David Icke. These people, basically what they do is they expose themselves so that they have controlled opposition, and nobody calls them out on that. Nobody calls them out on that. I think Alex Jones has had a lawsuit from the parents of the Sandy Hook victims, because he said it was all staged and so on. I mean, that's insane. That's insane. Like, these children died, and this guy doesn't shut up about that and says it was all staged and nobody has really died and blah 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 blah. And that's insane. So in the end, what I wanted to say is, understanding this is not easy. That's a lot of learning, and really understanding it is that's what is called a learned elder, is someone who really knows this stuff. And one thing with the Bible is that if there is a verse in the Bible that contradicts another verse in the Bible, then it's because you don't really understand or have enough understanding of the source material, because this is like the Talmud, the 5 books of Moses, in one book. So it's an excerpt of an excerpt of an excerpt, basically. And there are so many things in the Bible that you can use against people, like that's one of the things that's often used is judge not lest you be judged. But that's completely out of context, because that's not where the sentence ends. The whole chapter is about how to judge, not that you should never judge. And yeah, so I had to watch it again, Zeitgeist, thinking about that. This is literally, people believe that, and that Lucifer is the good guy, and even like Jesus is his brother. That's another thing that I heard. Jesus is Lucifer's brother. Don't know what to say about that. But there's literally people believe that, like these old guys in these Masonic lodges believe that. How can you believe that? That's insane. And yeah. And most of that stuff where they get these ideas from, I think, is from things like I think there's only 1 or 2 books which are not in the canon. That's the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jasher. where the antediluvian world is described, and that how does it go? That the angels of God came in unto the daughters of men and saw that they were beautiful, and they took them wives of whomever they chose. And that's the story behind the flood. And the world is literally more insane than fiction, stranger than fiction. And yeah, and it's very interesting that always, if you hear these people, it's always the same people talking about this stuff: Jordan Maxwell, David Icke, Alex Jones, and a few others that are constantly talking about this stuff. And yeah. So.
This is the sun. As far back as 10,000 BC, history is abundant with carvings and writings reflecting people's respect and adoration for this object. And it is simple to understand why, as every morning the sun would rise, bringing vision, warmth, and security, saving man from the cold, blind, predator-filled darkness of night. Life on the planet.
This is literally from Manly Palmer Hall, The Secret Teachings of All Ages. And he was an occultist, so he it's unbelievable that this, and if you watch that goes on for an hour or whatever, and you're completely convinced that, yeah, I have disproven Christianity. But these people know exactly what they're doing and how to use the intellect to disprove that, and they do that usually with astrotheology. And if you want to learn about astrotheology, watch the lecture with Mark Passio, Passio, Mark with a K, Mark Passio, Astrotheology, written together, Astrotheology. It's very interesting. It's very, very, very interesting, very fascinating. So that's way better time spent than watching Zeitgeist, because it's really sophisticated propaganda. That's what it is. And also there was Zeitgeist Addendum and a third part, maybe even a fourth part, I'm not sure. And it's all propaganda and misinformation and disinformation. If that was true, you have disproven 2,000 years of Christianity. The Vatican is still standing. So anyway, it's insane how much baloney, and also what's so insane about this, it's how much they have a certain kind of lingo, these people, like Blavatsky, Alice Ann Bailey. They have a certain kind of language lingo, and it's crazy. it's crazy talk. It's like these people were one step away from a mental home. That's they're talking about Shambhala and also Aleister Crowley. I mean, this is creepy. Like that, this guy was creepy through the books he wrote, through the PDF files. He was creepy through that. And they all talk a certain way. They all twerk a certain way, yeah. And I really believe that Zeitgeist, and I was very proud how enlightened I was. And being proud is a sign that you're still on the wrong path. Anyway, thank you for listening.